is up, and welcome to the Apex Podcast, where we talk about everything fitness related. This week, it's the three of us, and we're just going to kind of talk about fitness in general, where we started, and then customized training plans and like how to do better at those and how to just kind of get them so that you know what you're doing, especially if you're newer at fitness, and we want to help you along the way. So kind of like the first thing we want to talk about is for us three, what was the pivotal moment that made you commit to a fitness lifestyle? So Abby, would you be okay with talking first? Like, what was the moment in your life that made you, I mean, I know you've been active for like a long time, like you used to run a lot, but like what would you say was like the pivotal moment that made you commit to fitness? And when was it? Like how?
I'm going to go way back. So I was in 6th grade running the mile for the President's Physical Fitness, and I beat every single record for.
Do you remember what your time was?
I was a 6:06 in 6th grade.
Holy crap.
My fastest mile when I was racing was a 5:30.
Wow.
Nice. And my fastest 5K was a 19:30.
Can I ask you how tall you were in the 6th grade?
In 6th grade, I was this height in 8th grade. So 6'3" at 8th grade.
Oh,
I grew about 10 inches in between 6th and 7th grade. So I was in the 5s.
Okay, so you weren't as tall as you are now.
No.
But you were still fast.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Were you thin?
Yes,
Okay.
incredibly thin and incredibly uncoordinated. So about the only thing I could do was run.
Well, I mean, if you grow that fast, that's why you were probably like that, right?
So
6th
loved
grade.
running,
Okay.
stuck with it. I ran cross country and track through college, and then stepped back because I wanted to do something different. I did a marathon at that point right after college, after I got married. And then found running again after I had my second child and decided I needed to do something else because I was kind of bored with it. Mm-hmm. And then found CrossFit through that. So, yeah.
So 6th grade, you would say, is when you kind of like committed to wanting to be
fast and competitive.
Okay.
And so that's really what drove me initially, was loving the feel of the runner's high and loving beating other people.
So some people don't get the runner's high, and
Yeah,
you do
I
get
do.
it? Okay.
Absolutely. Like,
So for those of you listening, Abby and I have been floating. She keeps saying she wants to do an Ironman.
Yeah.
I think she should just do
a
it.
little bit. I should just do it.
Just do it.
Yeah. Back
Tony,
and forth.
Whenever you do it, I'll do it.
Same question to you. Pivotal moment that you committed to fitness. I think yours is more recent than Abby's, because Abby's would have been back in the 90s.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, early 90s.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I think there's actually two pivotal moments. One was back in my teenage years, and it's actually kind of dumb if you think about it, but I love watching like movies like Dragon Ball Z, like watching the character level up, get stronger. Also like playing video games and watching the main character get stronger. And one day I just had a thought like, well, I'm so invested in making these imaginary characters level up in life, why not do it myself, do it in real life? And that's when I started dabbling with the like weight training, just different things. Like I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't really have a profound reason for fitness. It's like, oh, that sounds cool. And so that was the first moment. More recently, it's become a matter of, if I don't invest in my fitness today, one day I'll be forced to invest in whatever medical expenses, whatever things I have to deal with, because I didn't take the time to get stronger, get faster, get healthier. So I think with this transition, it's allowed me to, over time, develop the habits and intrinsic motivation. It's not like I just want to look good to meet girls. I want to look cool. It's more profound. It's going to lead to longer impact, and I think that's what's driving me today.
Longer impact in like health reasons, or like longer impact in like those around you?
For both, because if you're not the best version of yourself, you're not going to be as helpful to others around you, whether it's your friends, families, children. I don't have kids today, but I imagine you would agree.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So same question to me. For me, it was, so I played sports growing up, right? I played football, baseball, like all that kind of stuff. But when I was 16, I went into the recruiting office because it was like my childhood dream to be in the military. And when I went in, I was 230 pounds. I was shorter than I am now. I was like 5'6", maybe. I don't remember. But they told me that I needed to lose 30 pounds. So that was, I had a friend and his brother was already in the Air Force. So I asked him, I'm like, bro, what do I do? And he mentored me a little bit, but that was like that would be my pivotal moment. I need to lose weight. And then once I lost weight, I lost it really fast. A 16-year-old boy can lose weight very fast if they put their mind to it, right? I did it all wrong. I wasn't eating. I was actually taking like ephedra because that was the thing back then, which is probably really bad for me when I think about it. But I mean, the weight just like blew off. And then what I came to realize is, holy crap, I like how I look. And before that, I really didn't. So what I would say is, from that point, I started trying to like learn more. Like back then it was magazines, it wasn't the internet, right? So I was like reading Flex and like Muscle and Fitness or whatever to learn diets. And that was kind of like where I started. And it just led to me like absolutely loving fitness. So that was mine. All right, so we're gonna move on. I guess the next one, we are gonna talk a little bit about CrossFit, but our functional fitness, and then we'll transition into talking about like training, customized training and personal goals. So I think the next question would be, and we can all maybe answer this, is how do you define the core principles of CrossFit and why are they so effective? So we use, at Apex here, we do use functional training, right? And that's basically CrossFit. But for me, I know CrossFit in general works for the majority of people. And a lot of haters will say that it's dangerous or, you're going to get hurt. But I've been doing CrossFit since I was 20 years old, and I've had minor injuries. So you get hurt. You can get hurt doing anything, right? Any kind of training protocol. I know bodybuilders that get hurt. They tear stuff. It really depends on like how you're working out and then like who's, I guess, coaching you. So one big thing is coaching. We all need coaches, and who is coaching, and then what are their like, I guess, goals for you. So core principles of CrossFit. I guess if we can go with those, and who wants to answer that first? You guys both have your level one, so you would know.
Yeah, so for me, what's appealing about CrossFit, both personally and as a coach, is you develop your foundation. So there's 9 different aspects of fitness. I don't remember them all, but it's like stamina, endurance, flexibility, coordination.
Gymnastics.
And what's cool is that you become great at every aspect. You might not be the best at any one of them, but if you decide later on that you want to specialize, then you already have that foundation. You don't have to start over. And I think that's really cool because I've had clients who, over time, they decide that, you know what, I want to go all in on working on my flexibility, mobility. It's like, well, we already did plenty of those during training without even focusing on it.
Right. And a really good example of that is I decided to do an Ironman last year. I basically only did CrossFit for the past whatever, and I was able to complete the Ironman. Now, I switched my training, right, to more Ironman training, but still I used like the core principles of CrossFit to like keep my fitness.
Right.
So I ended up specializing.
And then you can reverse back, right? Like now this year you're focusing on strength training, and because you've had CrossFit as a foundation, you didn't lose your strength.
Right.
You just need to make that switch, and a month or two later you're back to where you were, if not better.
Yep. Yeah. What do you think, Abby?
I think CrossFit, the best part of it is starting from wherever you're at and modifying and then becoming the best physical person that you can be.
Yeah, whether
without
you're
your
13 years old or
age, gender, doesn't matter. And so for me, that's why they're effective, is because it hits every person at whatever point in their life they're at, and then just allows them to become better.
Yeah. What about the community aspect of it? It's a cult, right? So
Slightly.
why is that so important? Why is community? I think we actually touched on this in the podcast last
Yeah.
week with community, but why is community so important?
I think when you're with your like-minded people, it's similar. It's easier to do what you love. Like, it's when the bad days are there, they're not as bad because you're doing it with people that are supportive of you and recognize that,
They're your friends, right?
yeah, that they're your friends, and also that you have similar goals for life, whatever those may be. I mean, definitely not the exact same people,
Right.
but you understand that at your foundations, there are things that you want to work towards that are achievable and believable and positive, and you focus more on that than the negative.
And what I think is even more important is the community transcends beyond fitness. The fact that Apex even exists at all was because I joined a CrossFit gym with the goal of working out and nothing more. But I found a community. I got to work with you for a few years. We went through some stuff, and we discovered this vision that we're now working to fulfill. So those relationships, you can't sell that during an interview, but those things exist and they're profound and it's beyond fitness.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very powerful thing to have.
Yeah, or even like the people that helped during Midwest Championship, right? Like the community. Like we had people that traveled here that are part of the CrossFit community just to help out with that, which I think is, I mean, amazing.
Right.
Even like Todd said, like, I can't believe people would just like spend their whole day working.
Yeah.
But this is like something, they see value in it and they're there helping, so like they're judging or whatever for these other athletes that are participating in the event. It's just, I think it's amazing how the community works.
And they're
also,
enjoying it too. Yeah, they have fun doing it.
oh yeah. Also, I've seen like the community step up with somebody in need, right? You've done it several times where somebody can't afford their memberships. You're like, I'm gonna just pay it for them, and a lot of places won't do that. So like, but you understand the worst thing that this person can do in a financial hardship is
Give
stop.
up your fitness.
Yeah, stop exercising.
Yeah.
So that's like a really big gift, right? Now, it might not help them like financially. Well, it probably will a little bit because they're cutting out their CrossFit membership, but it's going to help them up here more than anything else, which I think is more important sometimes. And I notice that a lot. People cut their fitness out first, which I think that is like the worst thing to cut out when you're going through a lot of stress, because it is like one of the biggest stress relievers that we have. So I understand the reason behind it, but I don't understand why people go to that
That's option one.
as option. Right. I mean, let's cut everything else out and then cut your fitness out if you absolutely can't. But there's other ways to work out too. All right, let's talk about risk. So CrossFit has been known to hurt people, right? How do we mitigate that? And like I said, I haven't really been hurt like that much or like that in extreme in my 16 years of doing this, 17 years. So like, how do we mitigate injury?
So I think for CrossFit, the risks are not really that different from any other discipline. Like, so take like in the finance world, you see people playing in the stock market and you decide like, I'm gonna put in $20,000 on this one stock, and then suddenly they lose it all. Why did that happen? Because they didn't know what they were doing. They saw advanced people doing things. And,
Yeah, that's a good point.
and then they want to do the same, but that's not how it works. They gotta start from the beginning, learn the foundations. CrossFit is the same thing. If you walk into a room and you try to bench 415 on your first day, you're probably going to break something. And I think
Or just get stuck under the bar.
or that, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think when it comes to injuries, I've experienced injuries, but it's not from CrossFit, but from what I've been seeing, that's the biggest indicator. Like they come in, they have their ego, they want to outperform the people in the room, and then they got themselves into situations.
Now, Abby, you've actually been hurt doing CrossFit, right?
Yeah.
So, like, what are some ways to mitigate that?
When I look back at the ones that I've had or the injuries that I've had, some of it has just been like sheer dumb.
Trying stuff that you probably shouldn't have been.
Well, that, or like working beyond the point of being tired, or like
Not getting enough sleep and then going and working out.
Yep,
Yeah.
and then doing silly things. And
Yeah.
I think some of it is like realizing when I look back at it, like I could have probably prevented one or two of those. One of them was a chronic thing that, how you're supposed to know. So like I tore my hamstring and I did it lifting, but it was acute on chronic injury from running. Mm-hmm. So those sorts of things, like life is going to happen, right? I guess I'd rather have something like that happen than be able to fix it and move forward. But the rest of it, I think mitigating it is being smart with your training and also like realizing your limits. And I think sometimes there's a fine line between what you can and can't do. And there's also a good time to try to push that limit and also a bad time. So finding that balance.
I think that in some of your cases, like, that had to be devastating with the hamstring thing.
I think the hamstring was devastating, but I felt like I could come back from it better. I actually had a harder time when I broke the pelvis.
Really?
Yeah, and I think that's because I had like prepared myself for the hamstring, like it happened, then like I gave myself time to heal and prepare for that. But I felt like I've just gone through this, right? And so mentally, I just hit
I remember that.
real low after that one, and that was mostly like because that one, the pelvis hurt a lot more than the hamstring. Like it just.
Now you can speak against this, but do you think the community helped you get back? Or do you think without the community you would have kept coming?
Away? Yes, I would have walked away.
So, I mean, that's part of the community, right? Like if you get injured, they want you there.
Right.
Like, and everyone wants to feel wanted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I feel like that's like a big thing in most of the CrossFits that I've seen. Like people want, I mean, that's part of like the whole model that I want you in the gym. We can say that at Apex, right? We want you here. Yeah. We want you to get results.
Right.
Not the opposite, like Planet Fitness says, right? They could care less if you're there or not. On the flip side, what we try to do is different. We legitimately want you here. We want to like see your face.
Yeah, and I don't like. I think when some of those injuries, I did my damnedest to walk away. Like I'm done, and I think part of it was realizing I wasn't, and that there were people here that weren't going to let me walk away that easily. And I think I needed that reassurance because you do heal and you do come back stronger from any trial that you're in. It doesn't have to be just a physical injury. It can be something that you get thrown at life-wise, right? Yeah. I mean, we're all products of how we respond to things. And so given the opportunity to grow from something, I think that makes more sense.
And you feel like you're stronger now physically, mentally because of those experiences?
I have some residual issues with the hamstring.
Okay.
I don't talk a lot about it. Like I can lift heavier now, but I think I'm eating better and I'm doing things like that. But there's some definite like twinges that I feel. I have pelvic pain still with that one, and I broke my sternum as well, and that one still does weird things.
Okay.
So, not that they're permanent, but I can live with them all, and I don't let them stop me from anything. Like I do have some chronic pain, but everybody does, right? I think it's how you handle it.
Right. So let's kind of jump into customized training and like personal goals. So CrossFit's broad in general, right?
Mm-hmm.
But let's say we want to work on something specific. So why is it important to have those training plans throughout your life? Because I mean, in general, like everyone should be exercising, right? But like, let's say I have a goal and I want to do a marathon, or I want to do like a half Ironman. I'm gonna say CrossFit isn't good enough to prepare you for a marathon, right? Now you could go out and run a 5K or a 10K, probably no problem.
Mm-hmm.
But a marathon is a lot of running.
It's a lot longer.
Why is it important to have the personalized training plans?
One, it prevents injury. Like knowing your body and having something that trains your body better than just going out and doing something. Two, I think it helps with your mentality if you know what you're working towards and have a goal and a step-by-step process. It doesn't, like, I think anxiety comes in for any of those sorts of things.
Absolutely.
If you are not prepared.
Yeah.
With anything in life. So having a customized training plan or having a coach help guide you through that is what gets you to your goal.
How can one tailor their own?
As in, like, how to personalize training plans for yourself or for clients?
Yeah, let's say you wanted to make a training plan on your own for a marathon.
Google.
And
you're still not on your own, right? Because
exactly.
you're still Googling it.
Yeah, so you're Googling things, you find some generic program that someone wrote for the average person, but you don't know anything about that person. That person might be faster, slower, stronger, weaker than where you are currently, and what they're doing may not be appropriate for your situation.
So how do you decide like if that's okay or not?
Trial and error.
Yeah, because I was actually
A
going to
little
say,
bit.
if you're going to try it on your own, Google.
Yep.
But if you really want to like avoid injury and avoid overtraining, then you should probably hire somebody to help you. And I think people overlook the importance of coaches and stuff as they get older, because
How is this any different than like getting a degree, right? You still have to go through school. You're still being coached by someone else. Like most of the things in life we don't do on our own. You have someone that'll help mentor you or guide you.
And like one of the biggest pushbacks anyone, like any client would say is like, well, whatever you're teaching us, I can find on Google. It's like, yes, you're technically correct, but do you have all the time in the world to go through the encyclopedia's worth of
I don't know if it's that as much as like when you hire a coach, they're going to be there to like pull you back in when things go wrong, or like you get an injury, what do you do next? Or
You're mentally just having a bad day. Like
that.
sometimes you need someone to just kick you in the ass. Like I mean, it goes both ways, right? Like
Or even I'm not motivated anymore. Like or I've heard this a lot. I don't think I can do this.
well, then you're talking yourself out of it.
Yeah, and then the coach, hopefully they're going to try to talk you back into it, because sometimes up in our heads, we're mean to ourselves, and we just want to like talk shit and freaking, you can't do this. There's no way you're going to be able to finish or whatever. So like I think having a coach like that is a super beneficial point. And also assuming that they have some idea of what they're doing. Because like not all, like a bodybuilding coach, I probably won't go to a bodybuilding coach to like train for a marathon.
Right.
But
I also won't go to a swimming coach to learn how to wrestle, you know? Like
right,
it's
same
the same
idea. So
Like
you do have to pick
out.
You have to pick what would be the best for you.
Yeah, and maybe you still need that other type of coach from a mental perspective. Maybe there's someone you just jive with, and for whatever reason, they help you get over your whatever the insecurities are. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I guess Google would be that's kind of where we're getting at. Google, right, would be a good way to start. And if that doesn't help, maybe hire somebody. Okay, so next question. How does one balance standardized training protocols with individual differences in fitness, ability, and goals? So I guess in this one, are we talking more about like the trainer, or are we talking about the individual training?
I say the individual training. is
Yeah,
what
so I think
see.
part of it is the standardization. Let's say your goal is to lose weight, so then the standardized approach is like, all right, well, you have to have a caloric deficit, so so that's the standard, right? So then we go into individualized. So all right, then what are those numbers?
Yeah.
So then you have to figure out your metabolism, how fast you burn calories, how strong you are. So there are fundamental principles that you stick with. So a lot of high intensity, a lot of weightlifting, but then we go into the details, like what about the weightlifting? What about the high intensity? So kind of like with a lot of my clients, I put them on different tracks based on their goals. Like they have the hypertrophy track, they have the conditioning, the fat loss track. So that's the standard. But then I go into their data points, like how fast can you do 50 burpees, and then I use that to program part of the workouts going forward. So that's how I customize. I don't know how you go about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, macros are big for when they're trying to lose weight. They do have to be at a calorie deficit. I do not agree with people that are like, they just can't lose weight. I think that a lot of people lie.
I think maybe it's not even lying, it's more like rounding.
Or they overlook,
up,
like,
or,
oh yeah, I forgot I ate
Oh, that.
this. And some small foods that are really like dense can be like 300 to 400 calories.
Nuts.
Yeah. Or like a donut, like, right? Let's just say, oh crap, yeah, I ate a donut. Well, that donut could be 300 calories and that could throw you over. So like, if you really are serious, you need to be more specific about how you're eating, and then like how you're training as well, because sometimes you can overtrain and like then you're actually doing yourself a disfavor. But I don't agree with people that don't think they can lose weight, or they said they've tried everything. There are probably some subsects that, like, yes, that does actually happen, but for the majority of people, they need to be at a calorie deficit to lose weight. Vice versa. Like, I hear people all the time, I cannot gain weight. Okay, why? You're probably not eating enough. I eat all the time. Okay, well, what does that mean? A lot of times when people say they're eating all the time, what they actually mean by that is they'll have one day where they eat a lot, and the next day they just don't eat, or they forget to eat. I realize that some people have really fast metabolisms. They just need to eat more. So that's why I think having a coach would help, because like I would say that, are you sure? Like, let's track your food for the next 10 days and let's just see, are you eating enough every single day to meet those calorie goals, whatever they might be? Are you overtraining? Are you super active? Like, all that kind of stuff kind of plays into it. And that's why I think having like a personalized training plan would probably be great for everyone that can afford it. So,
Yeah.
I guess kind of move on to something like the next question.
Yep.
I mean, like what common mistakes do you guys see when, let's say like back when you were training your first 5 clients,
Okay.
what are some things that in hindsight you could have avoided or done differently in customizing their training programs? So I know for me, part of it is I impose my expectations on clients who may not have the same goals. So
What do you mean?
so like really difficult events like really jive with me. Like I want to be kicked on the floor and just get the absolute crap beat out of me, and then I become
And
more
I
mentally
look
tough.
funny at
as a
you
result.
because I have no desire to do that.
And because of that, I assume that a lot of clients want the same thing because they want to experience the same growth that I did, but that's not necessarily true. So as time goes on, I learn to customize my approach based on their goals. So some clients, they want that, and I give it to them. But others, like, you know what, I'm just here. I want to be social, or I want to just have a good movement session, and I move on with my day. And then I have to adjust my programming accordingly.
So yeah, so like you said, you would not want to get your butt kicked by, like on the floor, but you would want a good solid workout. So like, yeah, you saying like everyone has the same goals. So I guess that's how you kind of manage your first couple clients, you're saying? That's interesting.
Putting aside your own emotional bias, I think
Right.
personal bias is a big issue. I think what I've learned for me is just to come at it with the like, I'm an open book. You just tell me what you need to tell me, and then we'll move from there. Like that way I can.
Did you have any issues starting out though? Like,
Yes, I think connecting with people is hard sometimes. Like some people you just naturally jive with better than other people, and I think trying to understand that maybe you aren't the best coach for a particular person is hard initially, and then helping that person find who the best coach is, I guess. Like being humble enough to realize when you are not the right person for them. And that, I think, is a growth experience for me. In my past life, in nursing, you just had 12 hours. It didn't matter. Like, if you had a bad client or you didn't mesh with the client the next day, it was pretty obvious you two didn't work well together, and they'd flip you around, right? So that wasn't a problem. But when you come into something like this and you're creating a long-term working relationship, hopefully a long-term, then it needs to be more flexible, and it needs to be something that works. And if it doesn't work, then I think that's where it's advantageous to have other colleagues that you can easily be like, this person may be a better fit for you, and that's okay.
yeah.
Not taking it personally.
So for me, I think like early on, it was more, I over pushed people to like I thought everyone wanted to be a CrossFit Games athlete. But the reality is most of the people that I worked with had no clue what CrossFit was. They could care less. They really just wanted to either lose weight or look good. So I guess me trying to push on my goals with them was a bad idea. And not everyone wants to spend as much time in the gym as I do. So realizing that, like if I give somebody 3 hours of exercise, like for their homework, they're probably not going to do it. But
if they have to work 8 hours and they have kids, and then
Exactly.
if their priorities are different,
Right.
yeah, that makes sense.
So, okay, we're gonna kind of flip stuff now. So, and this can go for either of you guys, but how do you identify when you've hit a training plateau?
So for me, training plateau, I think a lot of it is mental.
Okay.
So I would what I'm realizing now is short-term sprints, like goals, like every 6 weeks. That gets me to perform better. And I think what's been happening was I'll set a goal for like a year out, like I'm gonna train for an Ironman for this year, and that's like my only event. And then what happens is, starting out, I'd be super pumped, and I would go all in. But as time goes on, that motivation goes away.
Yeah.
And that's why now, like it's kind of unrelated, but training plateaus for me is more so not being aggressive throughout the journey, because I was fixated on the results and not the journey. And I was aiming for like trying to eat an elephant. as a whole. And so for me, it's all mental. Like I'm not progressing. If the goal seems too far away, I'm just gonna stop.
Right. So like, let's say you've lost quite a bit of weight, but you started at what, like 280, and you were like, I want to be 180 pounds. 100 pounds is a lot.
Yeah.
So like, breaking it down incrementally is helpful. And I guess like having other people or coaches or whatever to help you, let's do this, let's decide, okay, why don't we lose 20 pounds? And then after the 20 pounds, then we'll make another goal, right? And like, how are we going to do that? So that's good. So your plateaus are because you tried to bite off more than you could chew.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay. For me personally, a lot of my plateaus happen because I think I try to put too much in, or like my goal is too big, kind of like the same idea. And then it's not that it's too far off, but that it's like unrealistic. So I guess setting more realistic expectations of myself and then not being so hard on myself when I don't hit them, which I've been better at that since I've gotten older. Like I didn't expect to run like a 10-hour Ironman, right? My goal for the Ironman was to finish the Ironman. So I did that. And I mean, that's not like the best goal ever, but let's be honest, like that day sucked. It rained, it was cold, it was just like a terrible environment.
And you still did it.
But I still finished it, and that made me feel good about myself, right? So that kind of check mark, good, I got it done. What about you, Abby? What would you say?
I think I've had a lot of goals and a lot I haven't hit, right?
Yeah.
And I think part of it has to do with injuries. Like things come along where you have a goal and then something radically stops you from hitting that goal. But for plateauing, for me, I think a lot of it comes down to that mental side of things that you're talking about too. I think I get in my own way a lot of times.
Yeah.
And then it's just easier to either back off, which is frustrating because what potential is within each one of us that we don't tap into because we talk ourselves out of it.
Probably a lot.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, I think sometimes we don't do things. I wouldn't have done Apex had it not have been a push from you guys. Like,
Yeah.
I think there are things, I would not have left nursing had it been a push from other things. I mean, there were things that were clearly in the way of me stepping into other greatness. And the plateau in that is that you become comfortable with what you're doing. And oftentimes it needs to be something that really shakes it up.
Yeah, and comfort is our enemy in most
Right.
cases. I'm not saying like we don't want to be comfortable ever, but like trying to like be comfortable in everything we do is, I don't think you're gonna get satisfaction.
No,
in it.
I think that's where unhappiness starts to like wiggle itself
Right.
in because it's just easy to feel like.
Okay, so last question. So how important is rest and recovery in preventing overcoming training plateaus? This is my worst one.
Dave doesn't like to take a day off.
I do not like to take rest days. I legitimately love exercising. And a lot of people friggin' hate it, right?
Right.
I love it.
I-
If my body could handle it, I would work out all day.
I think that's what I think that's honestly why I loved 75 Hard is because I couldn't take a day off.
Yeah.
You just had to keep going and for me like I'm the same way. Like I get really, really antsy when I don't do something. And so I know when my body needs it. But I also have a really great way of being like, but I can still do it. You know? And maybe that's why injuries do happen is because I don't listen to that little voice that says.
Yeah, as I've gotten older, I've taken more of like a attempt to recover,
Right.
which is kind of why I actually bought like the cold plunge and stuff because I I need to figure out ways to recover faster, right? Or like the what else? The Theraguns, or like the Normatic systems, like.
Yeah. The saunas.
The saunas. We need stuff to like let our bodies recover if you're pushing hard.
Right.
sleep, I mean, all like nutrition, all that stuff works into play when you're trying to be like the best version of yourself.
Right.
So what about you, Tony?
Yeah, I think for me, rest and recovery is like I'm gradually aligning toward you in that I don't really do rest days, and the reason for it is not because I enjoy exercising, but I'm not obsessed about exercising. But what I found is on days that I don't exercise, my nutrition falls apart, my habits fall apart. Uh, so because I know myself, that's a trigger. So then I have to put mechanisms in place so that I don't
Right.
veer off from my goals.
But you still need to like figure out a way to have the rest and recovery. Otherwise, you're gonna
I think it becomes
Get
more
hurt.
active rest and recovery. And
Right.
like I've realized, like,
Yes.
you end up doing like a walk,
Yep.
a much longer walk than you probably went on a day when you actually worked
Yeah.
out. Or you do something else that doesn't, like, those are the days that I tend to pull everything out of the garage and clean the garage. I mean,
I'm
because-
with you on that.
Because then you're still doing all of the things and you're still using your body in ways that, but you're not, it may not be as much of a cardio load or it may not be as heavy of a load. And
Yeah.
so you feel like you're accomplishing something without actually,
Like it's lifting
yeah.
heavy or whatever.
Right.
So.
Yeah,
On
so-
my rest days, generally I'll sauna, and then I ice bath several times a week. But like that's my main thing. And then I make sure that I always get 10,000 steps, like no matter what day it is. So like rest day could be sauna, and then maybe maybe go for a long walk with the dogs or something like that. But I do need to like program them in. And for everyone else, it's important to program in rest days. However, most people probably don't work out all the time. So it maybe isn't even like, maybe you don't need to think about programming a rest day in if you're not working out enough or hard enough, right? If you, let's say you just did like low intensity cardiovascular stuff, you don't need a rest day.
you can make that happen.
Yeah.
I think people could easily take it too far by saying like, oh, I need a rest day because I don't want to overtrain. It's like, well, you need to train before you can overtrain. And a lot of people don't even get to that point.
So I actually think overtraining is very hard to do. And like you said, like how do you get to that point? Well, I mean, the volume has to be huge, and it depends on the person, of course, but like most people don't need an obsessive amount of rest days. Some people probably need more than others, especially as you get older, because your body does take longer to recover. But what are you doing like to mitigate that? So how's your nutrition? How's your sleep? Are you stretching? Stuff like that people just don't do. So if you're eating like crap, if you're not sleeping, if you never stretch, you're probably more prone to injury. And you're probably going to feel like you need more rest days. So, yeah.
Yeah.
What else?
Yeah, I think that's spot on. And rest and recovery is something I'm still learning about because I used to be the person that needs 6 rest days a week, and so now like
So you work out one day a week and then rest. I think that, so for every client that I've ever seen, if they work out one day a week, it is like terrible because they'll work out.
And then it feels horrible.
Right. And then they're like, well, I was sore for like 6 days. You're like, well, if you would have come back, you probably would have felt better. So like, taking that many rest days is ridiculous. I think some people are lazy.
There's the spectrum of everything.
Right. Or like some people go hard for like a month and then take like a month off. Like, holy crap. What was the point of that month? So like consistency is always key, and I preach that all the time to my clients. I guess some takeaways from this podcast are people need to seek customized training for if they're looking for something specific. Otherwise, if you're just looking for general health, you probably don't need something customized. You can just join a gym, but like if you're gonna join Planet Fitness, you have no freaking clue what you're doing. Maybe you should find a gym that like
wants you there.
that, and they have programming available. Like Apex has, like we started the classes. That's awesome, right? Unless you're working with a personal trainer, like the classes are still laid out, developed, and you're going to get an awesome workout in that is safe and effective, which is what happens at CrossFit, right? Mm-hmm. Assuming you're at a good CrossFit gym. So is there anything else like that you guys want to add with takeaways on today's podcast?
And rest and recover. Learn it early, but get yourself to a balance state.
Yes, balance, not
Balance.
6 on,
No.
or not 6 days off, 1 day on.
And not, yeah.
So I think the biggest thing for me and for anyone else is to not overthink it. Like, yes, there's a lot of different ways to get fit.
Yeah.
Just start with something. Don't spend weeks trying to figure out, like, am I a bodybuilder, am I a runner? Like, just start with something. If you don't like it, do something else. A lot of people, myself included, we try to plan out everything in advance, but then years will have passed and nothing got done.
Right. Just start.
It's like imperfect action triumphs inaction. That's a quote I learned, and it's something I try to remember.
Absolutely. Yes. And that goes for like pretty much everyone.
Yep. Life.
Yeah. But if you have never done like any kind of exercise, you probably shouldn't start with an Ironman.
No. Just a thought. Maybe a 5K. Start with a 5K.
Or like a sprint.
Yep.
A
Start.
triathlon.
Start with one and just grow.
Yeah. But starting is the key to success. So.
All right.
Anything else?
That's it.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching our podcast. Don't forget to subscribe so you can see our weekly podcast come out. And we just want to thank you guys for watching and listening. If you have anything specific you'd like us to talk about, please comment and we will talk about it. Or we'll even find
the podcast.
Yeah. Or we'll even find a specialist to come in and chat with us about it as well.
Yeah.
If you know anybody that would want to come and chat with us on the podcast, please shoot us a DM and we will be more than happy to get them on. But anyways, be Apex and we'll see you guys later.